Hi there, thank you for joining me to chat about Seeking Sister Wife. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and also let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments. The episode starts out with Becky and Justin. They say that it's been a few weeks since they had that whole messy situation with Stephanie, and they have been chatting to a couple people. So we see where both of them are going to the barber shop, and when they get there, she's asking the barber for a sophisticated look. And when he was finished, she was like, it doesn't look like it's square or whatever, shaped correctly, and so he has to go back over it. But when they got there, the barber was asking what's the occasion after she said that she wanted some sophisticated look. And so they go on to tell him that they're going to be meeting a potential sister wife. And her name is Yari. And Justin said that he had been, on, I guess, dating apps, talking to her. And in the picture that we see, she almost reminds me of Natalia, like in her face. So she looks like maybe South American, like Brazilian or Spanish. And of course, he's wowed by her looks. He says she's gorgeous. Justin said he didn't tell her right away about the polygamous thing until after they had been chatting online and on the phone, and then they had their first date. And he says that she said that she never heard of that before. I don't know. Is that possible? I guess so, but okay. So Becky says it's important for Justin to look right because of how Yari looks. He says she's always well put together, made up. She wears high-end clothes or something like that. And he tells the barber that I think the barber asked like how long they've been talking, or maybe he volunteered this, that they've been talking for 3 weeks. And so then Becky, she's so creepy with that smile of hers. Just almost reminds me of in the movie when the serial killer is about to kill and they have that evil grin on their face. She just has this smile that's just too broad. I don't know. But anyway, so she's like, have you ever cut a polygamist hair before? And she's like, yeah, I've actually done that before. And then he goes on to tell that he's been practicing polygamy for 3 months. I'm like, how convenient. 3 months? So he tells them that he has a partner in Texas and one in New Jersey. So Becky says that later on, she says she's nervous about tonight. It's a big date. And she knows that Yari's going to ask a lot of tough questions. But the way she's saying it, she's making it seem like it's their first date. But Justin said they already had a first date. So I don't know, like, what that comment was about. And, I was just wondering, like, had they not talked about the polygamous thing since the first date? That wouldn't really make sense. But okay, let me know your thoughts on her comments about her asking questions. Because wouldn't she, after he broached the subject of polygamy, wouldn't she have had questions between then and now? Why would there be a big deal about her asking tough questions now? They have been talking, so I didn't get her comment, but Justin said he's nervous, especially after Stephanie. So later on, we see where he's getting dressed for the date, and she's telling him what to do. She's always bossy, how to dress, what to say, what to do when he gets there, like make sure you pull out the chair, do this, do that. And Justin said that he had asked to pick her up, and she declined. She says she doesn't want him to pick her up. She'd rather meet him there. She doesn't have her dates come to her house, which is very smart. Becky says no intimacy, and Justin's like, what? He seems to be wanting to take whatever he can get. And then he says, what if I get drunk? And she's like, you don't drink. And he's like, oh. He's giving Garrick to me in this moment. Like he's looking for any excuse to get down however he can. So Justin says that him and Yari, when they matched online, she didn't really read the profile fully, and she didn't realize that he was a married polygamist. So now he says that it's their second date at this point in the episode. So I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense because she was making it seem like, this was all a whole new thing, or, the first date, and he had said they already had one. So I'm like, okay, so it's the second date. So he says he was surprised that she agreed to go on a second date. And he claims that they haven't talked about polygamy since the first date, which is crazy to me. Like, what have you guys been talking about? He's dropping a bomb about something that you know nothing about that involves him being married, and you have asked no questions since the last date. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. So they arrive. He gets to the restaurant waiting for her. Then she arrives. She's gorgeous. She speaks English, but she has a very deep accent. So I'm guessing she's Spanish because he said hola when she walked up to him. She says she was surprised that he was a polygamist. And at the dinner, he tells her that she asks about his wife, and then he tells her that they've been together since they were teenagers. She asks if they have any kids together and how many. What? So this has to be a setup, because there's no way that you're talking to somebody for 3 weeks and nobody asked the other one if they had children. Like, that's one of the first things that you ask somebody, especially at the age that they're at. Somebody more than likely will have children, or more than likely will have gotten married before. It's like, okay, have you been married before? Have you had kids? So they're asking these questions, but maybe this is just a recreation. So he tells her that he has 6 children. She didn't seem surprised or turned off by it. She says that she's a single mom and she's divorced with a son, and she talks about how difficult it is just being a single mom and being the only one. And she asked if his wife knows about her, and he claims that when Becky saw the photo of her, he said that she thought that she was definitely his type because he likes Arabic Latino women. Of course, she works out. So yeah, he asked her if she was interested in dating him or interested in the lifestyle. And she said that she has been thinking about it, and that her main concern was that, basically that all the interested parties know what's going on, because she has dealt with infidelity in the past. He asked her she asked him what he was expecting in dating her. And, is it going to be just him and her, or is the wife going to be involved? Is it going to be the 3 of them? And he says that he doesn't mind all of the 3 of them going out, but they will figure it out as they go along. My interpretation of the question was that she was wanting to know who she would be in the relationship with. Would it be just him or both of them? But I don't know if he deliberately didn't answer that, or he misunderstood the question, or maybe I misunderstand the question, but I thought that that's what she was asking. So she asked if his wife would have a problem with just the 2 of them hanging out. And he tells her it wouldn't be a problem if she's not jealous. And I'm like, what? Okay, well, maybe she's not jealous, but she's definitely controlling, and she's going to want to be the one to dictate everything. So I don't know. Justin says in the confessional that, he doesn't think that Yari totally gets it, but probably won't until she meets and talks to Becky. So he had better, when he said that, I was thinking that he better be careful what he wishes for, because she might flee the minute she meets Becky, because Becky is kind of over the top. Now, after dinner, they go for a walk. He asks, if she's ready to go, she want to go for a walk. So we see them walking hand in hand along the road. I don't know if they really went for a walk or anything. And then he asks if he can get a kiss, a goodnight kiss. He's like, oh, can I get a kiss? He's whispering for some reason, but there's nobody around. He's like, can I get a kiss goodnight? Nobody's looking. And she says, thank you for your time. And then he's like, that's it? And I just rolled my eyes. I hate when guys do that. Is that it? What do you mean? I don't owe you anything. What do you mean if that's it? If that's what she's comfortable with, that's what she's comfortable with. Don't try to guilt trip her into something, making it seem like she owes you something more than what she's willing to give. Please. So at the end of the night, in her confessional, Yari says that she would prefer if it's just him and her, but he will have to decide, and then they'll see what happens in the future. So I hope that, Becky's not trying to get in on the action. Yari seems like she likes Justin, but he just seems a little creepy to me. he seems like one of those guys who latch on and want to do too much too fast and have these expectations in a short period of time. That's just the vibe that I'm getting, but we'll see. So let me know what you think of Justin and this whole dynamic with him and Yari. Shane meets with his friend Charlie, and I think he said he met him through Ashley. Did I hear that right? So anyway, he says, he's somebody he can depend on, and he goes on to tell him about what has been going on. He says he has a lot to tell Charlie because they haven't talked in a good while, and he also wants to talk to him about the concerns that he has with Sarah, which I was like, huh? What did poor Sarah do now? So he tells Charlie about, they have somebody else who they're talking to for Ashley. He tells him about the meeting with Sarah, that he met her on the second date and started asking questions. He tells a friend that he started to have a bad feeling, and he says it was awkward to see Ashley flirting with someone, but he was happy to see Ashley, how she was acting and that she was happy. He tells Charlie about Sarah's background and having been involved with couples before, but that she only saw them a few times a year, which he was concerned about, as it relates to whether she was really interested in him and Ashley. He tells Charlie about how she said she didn't want to jump in right away, and the friend says, well, that's fair. Shane then mentions the concern about Sarah as far as not taking the steps to get to know them or not taking initiative. I don't know what he was talking about, but I think maybe he said that she wasn't taking initiative to get to know us. But I think by us, he was referring to himself, because Sarah seemed to have gotten along quite fine with Ashley. The friend feels like maybe there's more questions that need to be asked. He said that, with the dynamic, there are more people to consider, so it's a lot, going on. And he says that he would be jealous if, he was involved in a dynamic like this. And he said he just couldn't do it. But ultimately, he kind of sides with Shane, that he says, maybe there are more questions that need to be answered. And if this is how you've acted in with couples in the past, maybe this is not the right situation for you. And if this is not going to work for you, that is fine. So Shane feels like his feelings are validated by Charlie, but Sarah never said that she didn't want the same things as them. He asked about her past. She told him about her past. And then now he's running with it that she doesn't want the same thing as them. So I feel like that's unfair for him to do that and making it seem like, she doesn't want the relationship with them. So she said that she needed to get to know them before committing to anything, which I feel like that's fair. I would really wonder about somebody who wants to jump in a relationship and commit right away without properly knowing me, or in their case, knowing us, if it was a kind of a polygamous thing. He said he also feels like no one is good enough for Ashley, aka I'm jealous, and that he also feels like someone may take Ashley away from him, which the friend understands his emotions on that. And I feel like a lot of, him being difficult is probably tied into his fear of somebody, pulling Ashley away from him. So Shane goes on to talk about how he had a cancer scare, or he had kidney cancer. And this is something that it seemed to me that he was just telling the friend about this. I got the impression that the friend didn't know about this, but he said that he had the surgery, and that's a part of the reason why he wanted to seek a partner for Ashley. In the confessional, he said that although he's cancer-free now, it may come back. And so we see where Ashley is crying while he's telling this in the confessional. So the friend tells him that he's there for him, whatever he needs. And we see Shane started crying. And so the friend gave a hug and all that. And Shane also confessed that he he's scared. He said he's only ever had Ashley to talk to. And so now, it's something that it's like he needs to get off his chest because he's scared. He's worried. He has a screening that's coming up and he's really scared. So the friend tells him if there's anything he ever needs that, he should let him know. And so anyway, after Shane started crying, he left the table and I thought he was going to go to the bathroom to try to, compose himself. But then we see where he was walking down the street. So it looked like he left the bar. So the next we see them is the next day. Shane is talking to Ashley about the meeting with Charlie, what they talked about. And Shane says that he feels relieved that he was able to talk to Charlie about his feelings, especially especially since he is not, I guess, involved in the situation. He says also, especially since him and Ashley are not on the same page. So he goes on to talk about, his 6-month checkup coming up for his cancer. He's currently in remission, but they still have to screen. He tells her that it was good for him to talk to somebody else. And he said that, he says to her that he shouldn't, he's been pushing the screening back and he shouldn't have been doing that. And she says that it was her too. So they laughed about, not being able to, do the screening or pushing it back because they're having a baby. They're trying to find a sister wife. They have a toddler that's growing up. And so it seemed like they weren't taking the screening seriously because they laughed about it. But at the same time, they probably are scared to find out the outcome of the screening. But it is something serious that has to be done. So I hope they, push past that and get it done. Better to know sooner than later. But I do feel for them. That's something that's hanging over his head, and it doesn't seem like he's told anybody outside of Ashley until this point. So after that conversation, after, that topic, he asked her how she's feeling about Sarah. She says that she will see him again, but they will need to have a more serious conversation about how things are. He says that he wants to make sure that she will take care of Ashley if he's not around. So yeah, with this development, it looks like he's seeking a potential replacement for himself due to his health, and it was really sad. I mean, I guess I can empathize with him now in the moments where he seemed to come off overly difficult or a little bit jerkish, because there's a lot, riding on the decision as far as who they choose and who they bring into the family, because ultimately, that person may be the sole guardian or partner for Ashley. So at the beginning of their segment, we see on the screen that it's been 6 weeks since Garrick left for Brazil. So he's been in Brazil for 6 weeks. Now, he had initially said, okay, I think he did change his mind. He had initially said 30 days for like a month, but I think he might have changed that to 2 months. That's a long time. So anyway, we see Danielle at her house. She's packing to go to Brazil. She's not really enthusiastic about it. And Sam came over and she was going to help her pack. And, she's saying, oh, how about this? How about that? And she says, one dress she pointed out, she says she couldn't because she's pregnant. So Sam was like really shocked. But before that, Danielle was talking about, how things have been rocky between them, and she just doesn't feel like excited to go to Brazil. And at one point, Samantha had said in her confessional that, she has never seen it this bad between them, and how Garrick would ask to come over and spend the night at their house. So it seems like, there's been more going on than we have seen in the episodes between the two of them. And she goes on to tell her how, Natalia hasn't been in touch with her, and she feels like the third wheel, and she feels like Natalia is trying to take Garrick. She's scared about that. She says that, maybe because she knew they were having problems, even though he's still married, maybe she got into it because, she's hoping that at some point they'll break up and it would be just her and Garrick. And I was like, what? Why would you tell Natalia that you guys were having marital problems? Or was it Garrick who went and blabbed this to kind of maybe give her some kind of hope of them being together alone. I don't know, but I just thought that that was odd that Natalia knew this about what was going on between the two of them. So anyway, Danielle says she doesn't know about the state of the relationship, if they're still even be together. She's scared of, being a single mom. And, Sam was saying that if she found out she was pregnant, she would want her husband to be there. And so it was just kind of sad that Danielle found out she was pregnant while, Garrick is off gallivanting in Brazil with Natalia. And, she just doesn't know where they stand right now. She's going back and forth as far as whether she should even go to Brazil, because they're supposed to be having the wedding. It's supposed to be for this weekend. They said they're waiting to hear from final confirmation. And so she feels like, Natalia doesn't want her at the wedding. And there's no communication that we've seen in the episode between her and Natalia. And so I wonder if she was even invited. The whole plan was supposed to be for them to do this all together, but, she can't force Natalia to have her in the wedding if she doesn't want to. So I just wonder what really has happened between the time that they left Mexico and now, because even though they weren't like best friends, they were still like, civil and seemed to be okay as far as the relationship between her and Natalia. But then now it just seems like things are a bit contentious. So yeah, it's just really sad. So she doesn't know if she wants to go, just because she feels like she's not wanted at the wedding. She's going to feel like a third wheel in all of this. So later in the episode, we see where she calls Garrick. And the phone rings a couple times before he comes on. And I'm like, really? This is your wife? And I don't know how often they speak, but to me, I was just like, man, why is the phone ringing so long before he picked up? So we see where he said he picked up, and he said they had just gotten back at the beach. From the beach, Danielle had asked like where Natalia is. He says that she's out dress shopping or something like that, which is kind of odd. If he's been there 6 weeks, the wedding is supposed to take place this weekend tentatively. Why is she dress shopping right now? I feel like that might be an excuse if Natalia didn't want to talk to her, because you should have already have your dress already, at least if you're getting married in a few days. So anyway, he asked about what he's up to, and he's just chilling while she's out doing whatever she's doing. And she says, she tells him that she doesn't know if she wants to come because, Natalia haven't been talking to her. She doesn't feel like she's invited to the wedding or she'll be welcome. And he says, no, you have to come because, you'll hurt her feelings if you don't come. And I was like, not from what we're seeing. I think maybe that's him saying that, or maybe making it seem like, he's supportive of her to come. But if Natalia hasn't been, saying, I can't wait for you to come to the wedding, or when are you coming, or whatever, she doesn't seem too enthusiastic to me for her to come based on what we're seeing. So anyway, she breaks down and tells him that she's pregnant, and he's just looking and blinking. And I just felt bad for Danielle, because clearly he was not happy with the news. It was quite a minute of, a period of time where he was just looking. He didn't like, oh my goodness, are you serious? The reaction that you would expect. He didn't seem happy. And he was like, oh, it's a surprise. But, children are a gift from God. But he was just like, it's like when you tell somebody something happy and they don't care either one way or another. They just, say something just to say something, but there's no joy or anything. He did not seem happy. So anyway, after they ended the conversation and he said that he loved her and she said she loved him back or whatever. And he said that he would give her a call tomorrow. Tomorrow? Wow. If I were Danielle, I wouldn't go. Like, seriously. Between the fact that she's not really getting along with Natalia, the fact that Garrett is over there living it up like he's single, You have to wait for a call the next day after you just told him that you were pregnant. That's messed up. I would not go. So anyway, she hangs up the phone and seemed like she was still, upset and crying a little bit. And yeah, I feel bad for her, but it's like, this is a messed up situation that you're in. Why this whole people trying to have multiple wives and all this stuff, it just seems like it never works out. And I just feel bad. I just feel really, really bad for her. But let me know your thoughts on Garrick's reception of the news. He just didn't seem like he was. I didn't like the reaction. Just that alone, I'd just be like, okay, let me just hang up this line right now. I would feel so ashamed if I told somebody I was pregnant and they react like that. I'd just be done. Lastly, we see the Davises, and they are at home in their backyard toasting marshmallows. Everybody's there. So April is saying that now that they've confirmed with Danielle that she's ready to move forward, it's time to bring Nick in. Nick tells us that when they're looking to add a sister wife, that the wives are the ones who choose and do the vetting, I guess. And what does he do? Because they go to work, they do the vetting, they seek out the sister wives, they resolve the issues. This man just sits back and do nothing, but okay. So anyway, so they sit down and I guess they're having a glass of wine and marshmallows. After they're done toasting their marshmallows, they were telling him about what they did early in the day as far as, smashing the things and how they went to lunch, and they were able to sort things out with Danielle as far as the concerns that she had. So Nick was confirmed with Danielle that you're certain you want to be here, you're just not certain of who we're going to bring in. And in the conversation, he asked, he said, so are you sure you're ready to bring in a sister wife? And he's like, yeah, and, as long as we keep the communication open and each step of the way that we're, communicating, kind of debriefing and whatever. And he asked her several times in this conversation if she's sure she's ready. And at one point, when he asked her, sure, there was a little pause there. In the confessional, Danielle says, she's telling everybody that she's ready, but she's scared, and she's scared to, she doesn't want to tell them that she's scared of the whole thing because she's now have to, whoever they bring in, she's going to have to legally marry that person. And so she's telling them that she's ready to get married and she wants to do it, but she's still not there. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? Especially with, Nick. Nick seems to be the one who's most concerned about that she's okay and she's not being honest. And I wish she would. Like, if you don't want to marry somebody else, then say you don't. Like, if you're okay with bringing in a wife and maybe the marriage piece of it is what's concerning for you, then say that. But this whole thing that they're going on about, she's not quite there. And I feel like she's going to run again, but we'll see. But it was a very small segment with the Davises in this episode. And yeah, that's all that happened in their segment. Well, let me know your thoughts on Danielle, like, placating, because I feel genuinely that while she might get along with Nick, April, and Jennifer, that she's not ready for the lifestyle. I think maybe as it is, with her just being there and having the interactions and the companionship and being a part of the family, I feel like maybe that she's okay with that. But then all the other stuff, I don't think she wants to do all that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the episode. Like, comment, and subscribe.